hello everyone. The topics I will cover today is AI for education. In the main session that was mentioned, that education is a big challenge and AI can probably provide some answer. I'm CEO of EvidenceB, and we are providing solution to help K-12 students to better master their notions through AI. So this is an old cartoon, but it's a way to show there is a need for personalization in education, to adapt education for the need of every student. So the selection was climb to the trees, and obviously it's not the same for all those animals to do the exam. So there is a need to teach to everyone. Some figures regarding education system. So first of all, it's one of the biggest investment for nearly all government. Education is increasing in the investment, and there is nearly a massive education success all over the world. Despite the COVID stopped all education system for 2 years, and we have this struggling situation of massive education without personalization. I bring two figures here from UNESCO. 60% of the students doesn't master literacy and numeracy all over the world, so we still have challenges in K-12 education. And I show another number coming from PISA studies. Education systems are measured, their effectiveness are measured through international studies like the PISA, and at the latest PISA studies, the question was asked to compare 2/5 and 1.5. And 75% of the students thought that 2/5 was bigger than 1.5, which is wrong. And this number is coming also from Finland, Singapore, all countries performing well or not in the PISA. So there is challenge in a cognitive approach. How, in basic knowledge, sense of proportion, can we teach the student? So I mentioned those big studies. There are several of them trying to measure the efficacy of education system and how we can improve that. This trend is evidence-based education, that's the brand of the company, EvidenceB, and I have to follow this kind of steps that new science bring to education. There is two main pillars we are working on. So cognitive approach, how the brain learns. All education is in the brain, but it's a black box. It's just 30 years, it's 5,000 years that we have education system. It's just 13 years that we start to understand how it works, how the sense of numbers, the sense of verb work in the brain. And AI is behind. How can AI empower and do personalization? There is a good and bad path through education with AI. Those cartoons show two examples that are not necessarily the best. The question is to put AI for education and not education for AI. If you do education for AI, you will drive tests that are designed by the AI, and you try to have the student answer for the test. The test measure the comprehension, not the reverse. Same, we usually have this competition in AI between human and robots. And in this one, it was a China company saying, okay, they took the best teacher and the best AI, and the AI won. But that's not the way AI works in education. AI in education, it's made for the teacher, to empower the teacher, not to replace them. And so there is a big project in Europe and France, AI for Humanity. That was the main trend this morning in the keynote speak. AI is for humanity. In education, it's for the teacher. So we are providing module of exercise with AI that will allocate the exercise the best way they can for the student to succeed. We have a project in Singapore on sense of fraction in a gifted school of the government. Singapore is one of the best education systems. We have done with Pearson, and in France, with the Ministry of Education, we won several tenders in maths. And what we do, it's basically exercise, massive exercise designed by cognitive approach, and there is AI that will allocate the appropriate exercise to unlock the student. This is the student part. And then there is dashboard. Dashboard is a key feature when you have a solution in education. Dashboards are made for teacher, for allow teacher to understand where the students are locked, how they progress, and I will elaborate on maybe two AI we are using. So these are some examples. Coming from the brain research, for example, the bicycle, it's exercise regarding fraction and proportion. The brain research have shown that the number and the space are related in the brain and should work together. Working with the number line, it's a key aspect to reinforce the understanding of the student. I just comment quickly these figures. It's coming from INRIA. INRIA, it's the biggest AI center for France, and we have made this algorithm with them. It's reinforcement learning in the category of AI, and it's multi-arm bandits, the kind of algorithm we use in that case. It's a comparison between a student, a teacher with student, and an algorithm helping the teacher for the student. Red are easy exercise. Dark blue are challenging exercise, difficult exercise. When the teachers start, like the AI, they start with easy exercise, the red one, and they move little by little to orange, yellow, green. But what you see, it's the teacher at a certain point will stop red exercise, and at another point, he will never go to blue exercise. The AI just works like machine, and until the student doesn't master the notion, he will keep pushing red exercise. And some students that are progressing well, they will have dark blue exercise. And this is two cases of dropout students. Those that doesn't master the notion, in a certain way, in 2 weeks or 2 years, they will have this gap. So that's a good way with this AI to help the teacher broaden his support for every student and not only the middle of the class. So I will go quick, but usually the AI we had in education, there was big company in US, in China, Newton, Squirrel AI. They work with knowledge trees, a fixed view of the knowledge, and you pass the branch after branch. What we have seen, it's this fixed knowledge tree is not working that well. Every country has its own curriculum. Science, epistemology is completely progressing always. So it's not a fixed knowledge tree. And the AI we are using within RIA, it's based on the code name is ZPD, Proximal Development Zone. The fact that there is a zone of activity that will be appropriate for this student, and little by little, this zone will move, providing several kinds of exercise, several kinds of difficulties, in order to best help the student to master the notion at his own speed. Proximal development zone means you need to have a challenging exercise to succeed, but not too challenging, because you will be discouraged, and not too easy, because it will be the same. So just to follow, and every student will have his own path. There is no one unique. So this is technical. We have a graph behind that we design with that, and so those are the dashboard that reflect what those AI bring to the teacher, progress of the student and where they are locked. The second algorithm we use, so this is the progression, and this is if you want to see deeply where the student is locked. And this is my last algorithm that I will comment. This is clustering. So we are all familiar with cluster thanks to COVID, but it's not the COVID cluster that we use here. It's just the idea that in a classroom, some students have the same way to learn. And we have with this AI bringing for the teacher some view of how his classroom, it could be 40, we have progress in Egypt where there are 80 students, how this cluster works and how we can teach to 5 groups that have different aspects. For example, we can measure that some students are going very quickly to progress in the exercise, but they don't activate the lesson, they don't read, they answer too quickly, so they have not read the question. So all those kind of information will also come back for the teacher to help him to better support the student. So, and to finish this presentation, it's a big trend. So COVID have stopped the schools. Schools have using IT with computer and bandwidth. And the fact that most of the digital education was just putting digital earlier resources, but with a digital textbook or digital content, it doesn't make education. You have also the video, but to have classroom with video, it's not that much the same and very efficient. So the big trends now, it's this adaptive learning. It's called adaptive learning. The fact with technology, you can adapt, allocate the right path to help every student to succeed thanks to AI. So that was about what I wanted to share with you, and I don't know if my time is over, not at all. So if there is space for questions, I'm happy to answer the question that you may have. Yeah.
From my my personal experience of learning, there is a great benefit of like treating, well, we had teacher in university who treated group as a whole and was able to leverage this, say, to channel some complex topics through very good students who happen to be better in explaining some complex topics to those who didn't understand them. So what do you think about this, like treating a class as a whole and collective that helps each other?
Okay, great question. So yeah, I am modest regarding AI in education. It's not a miracle, and it won't replace any kind of pedagogy. And of course you are right. Most of education is done collectively when students work together, talk together. So this aspect is a major one. What we tackle with this kind of solution, it's part of education when they have some challenges with one notion and they can improve in that one. To go, and at the beginning, you were right, personalized learning through adaptive learning was very personal. Every student has his own set of exercise, and you don't benefit this collaboration question that you ask, if I may understand well what you have said. We just won a tender in France for the 15-year-old student in maths and literacy, and we develop, we call it duo mode, a capacity in that kind of software of a student to work together. They select a friend, or the teacher can select, and to help them to work together, to see how they progress, to ask them some question. So there is a first extension where the dimension you ask. Another one, it's I didn't mention NLP. NLP, it's quite familiar in AI, and so the ability for students, while they are doing the exercise, to ask questions to their teacher, to their colleagues, friends. So those are some way to, I would say, empower and enrich this kind of software. But my main answer is software is not the only solution. You can play Lego, you can do things with real objects, and so it's part of the solution. It will never be the complete solution. I don't know if I answer correctly. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, excellent presentation. Thank you so much. One of the things that you just ended with, I imagine to be a very difficult challenge, and that is, as it is just one element of many solutions that a teacher may use in the classroom. Here you have a product that is leading the conversation around the acquisition of certain skills. How are you finding working with teachers and helping them to integrate a new product such as this into the regular teaching and learning methods? Like, how does that work for you?
Okay, great question. So, 2 steps for the answer. First of all, usually when you speak about technology in education, and even more when AI with education, all education system came and said, okay, we need teacher training. The teachers are not trained, we need explanation. Actually, I don't exactly believe this. When you build a company, when you do product, you don't want your customer to change to go to your product. You want your product to fit the needs of your customer. And so my approach is more, how can I really help the teacher the way they teach, the way they are, the knowledge they have, and they are very skilled, the teachers. Great profession. So first part of the question, what we do, it's exercise. Okay? And many teachers are using exercise activities. School books are full of exercise. They have a pedagogical freedom to use those exercises. They can use them before the lesson. They say, okay, go do this exercise before the lesson that I will deliver next week. They can do it during the lesson, all together. Some kids that are in advance, some ones that are locked, some of the cluster that are different kind of activities. So it could be also after the lesson. You have listened to the lesson, and after you have to do some exercise. So it will fit, I would say, the way teachers used to deliver the content. No big difference. That's the first thing that we try to do. The second thing, and I mentioned quickly this dashboard. The key feature, we have developed those dashboards with UCL, University College of London, with Professor Roslekin. They are in AI education quite well informed. And what they tell us, okay, when you do this dashboard, please do dashboard of small cars, not of Boeing. It should be a small dashboard with just the key information. You saw the progression I mentioned, and some red dot and green dot. The red dot, it's when a student is struggling somewhere. So just focus where we can help some student instead of correctly massively exercise, because it's a workload for teacher to do the correction. So we elite this workload for the teacher. We just point what is challenging for them. So this is first part of this dashboard. The second part is what you mentioned. We have, and it's part of the answer that I said precedingly, we have this kind of adaptive exercise, but there is many other things. So in the dashboard, and when we work with government, and even with publisher, we provide some hint for the teacher. Okay, for this one, for this cluster, the better for those group of students, it's to go out of the computer and do something else. And it could be, so this way, it's like a map for the teacher to help him to navigate. And we are speaking about Madrasati, there is many content there. In Madrasati, you can design, okay, for this one, go back to the lesson or go to this part of the topic. So I don't know if it's covered your question.
Oh, you did. Thank you so much.
Yeah, one question over there.
Thank you, sir. I was late. I did not attend the whole presentation.
I'll start again, okay.
But my question is about the exercise. So AI is, I know it's the future and it's very affecting our life, but for the kids, so they will do more classing in online instead of offline. So is it affecting their exercise, their movement in the class, the presentation and their like speech?
Okay, so as I mentioned, it's one tool among others. And in a way, we don't provide lesson, it's just exercise. So it could be, when you have COVID time, it could be a very useful tool for doing quite a lot of lessons through this kind of tool. But if you have normal classroom with the kids working together, it could be just at certain time when it would be appropriate. So there is not, in this kind of solution, the need to take 90% of the learning time. The other topics I cover, it's AI in itself for education, it's not enough to be powerful. It's for helping the teacher, and in the software we are developing, it's come from the brain research, okay? And the brain research, it's quite new. So they work for people that have broken something in the brain at the beginning, and they have the syntaxes and not anymore the vocabulary, and that's why they know better how you learn language. They know about sense of numbers. So there is some area that are covering, and it's because we do the match between those new knowledge and the AI that some of those modules are very relevant and better than what have been done precedingly. But it will cover, we think there is 5 domains, and partly that we can cover with kind of module. So math, first language, second language, science, and history, geography. So, but in those fields, it's only some parts that we will cover. So I don't know if I answer your question, but it's just partly will be used. But maybe it's more related to data, your question, or it's okay? Yeah. Yes, a question over there. I don't know if...
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I just have a couple of questions. What is the opportunity of using NLP in such a product, and what sort of case studies that you had?
Yeah.
It was very successful. And the other question is, I guess to some extent the exercises, and this is my assumption, that the exercises were actually created by the teachers. So inheritably, if there was any bias or inaccuracy in measuring the cognitive skills of the students, it will be inevitably reflected in the...
Sure.
And this is, I mean, it's inevitable, I guess, but
Okay.
these
questions.
couple of questions.
Okay,
yes,
so first one regarding NLP. So there is, in AI, there is many kind of algorithm. So the 2 major that I use, it's reinforcement, it's machine learning, reinforcement learning, and unsupervised approach with the clustering. So I didn't show some NLP. The NLP that we are providing now in the tool, NLP, it's, you recognize what the words are written or said by the student. The way we use it, it's to better capture where is the student? Is he locked? Does the machine have understood well what the problem he faced? So we start with little part of NLP to better understand what is the student problem. So that's what we are developing. But some companies are developing NLP to learn language, so there is huge progress in NLP in everywhere. So partly we use it, and we will progress on that. Regarding the second question, the bias, and we mentioned that this morning, who are creating those exercises? I just mentioned that in the previous question. When we develop a module, in fact, it's based on this brain research. So we are all different, but human brain, it's a human brain. So sense of proportion in the human brain, it's the same in your brain, in Singapore brain, in Finland brain. So we have a kind of universal approach, and that's why we design this way those modules. Then when we design a module, the cognitivists say, okay, this kind of exercise will help to unlock or to progress. And so we design the gameplay specifically researcher by researcher for every module. So every gameplay are unique. And I used to say this is curriculum agnostic. This is the way brain works, and then it will fit the demand of the curriculum of every country. So we eliminate quite a lot of bias that would come from cultural activity and that. So I don't know if it's an answer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. So this is kind of a big one that you could probably write several PhDs on, but how do you...
So, I take the scene.
Perfect. You've touched on elements of this, but how do you make sure as you introduce these types of systems into the classroom that you're not turning teachers basically into data collection kind of servants, basically, and actually enable them to continue teaching in a way that's meaningful, not just obviously with individual attention, but through collaborative activities, things like that. Because so much of what I've seen in the introduction of, let's call it the first attempt at individualized education, force teachers to become data collection devices and no longer be teachers.
Okay, great question. So, there is once again, two parts of the question. As I answered to the gentleman over there, I don't pretend this solves everything and you have only to do that. And teachers have very various diversity of tools that they can use, and they are the master to do that. We put a hint where we have some new knowledge. Through the dashboard, if we can elaborate some paths for them to navigate through other tools and resources they have based on what we have observed. So just starting that. Then data collection. In fact, the way we approach the question, it was more the reverse. Actually, when you make an inquiry of the life of a teacher, of the week of a teacher, and you ask them where they spend their time, so they will say, okay, I meet the parents, I give lesson, I take research to build my lesson, I evaluate my student and mark the copy. And when you ask them, what I prefer to do as a teacher, and what I'd like less to do, what they prefer to do, it's to grab information to prepare the lesson, to go on the net and find some new resources to build the best lesson. And what they like the less, it's to correct the copy. So it's not a question of data collection at this time. It's a question of spending time doing 1,000 exercises that you correct. So that's a workload which we are trying to simplify for the teacher. Regarding the kind of AI we use, in fact, that have been trained already by 6-7 years of research within RIA. So in fact, it's not that much data that are, in itself, it already works, and we have even put AI in the browser to be able to work without internet connection. So it's not necessary. But having said that, of course, and the cognitivists with whom we work, they are very interested by knowing the algorithm will allocate the right exercise to unlock a student. And sometimes the algorithm provides some exercise, and we can see that some exercises have been much more effective than the other one. So that's the machine learning part. And so we improve with those data effectively. But in a way, it's, and we bring that back to the cognitivists. So they are very interested to know how the algorithm navigates through the exercise. Anyway, those kind of tools are really, the data they collect are not the one we share them with the teacher because they can see it in the dashboard. It's not the way that it's not the center part of it. The center part of it is for them not to have data collected by someone else, but to help them understand the 30, 50 kids they have. When you teach something, sometimes it's difficult to understand. You can repeat, you change the way you explain it, but you're not sure. You unlock the student. So that's the way we help the teacher to help him to understand better every student. So in fact, they are not a machine at all. They are the key of this kind of adaptive module. So I have 4 minutes for one question, maybe. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for your presentation. The last question maybe lead us to thinking about the privacy and the legal of use the
Sure.
data of kids or children in the school or everywhere.
Yeah.
I think we need to encourage and raise the issue of policies and regulations of application of AI, even education or in other systems. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so that's a major question, but that's not that a major issue for us. For the algorithm to work in our system, everything it's become anonymous. The company doesn't need to know which student have done what and all that. We need to know if you succeed here, you should go there. If you fail that is efficient. And then there is usually the government now have the identity, and we have the single sign-on system for the student to have his name when he connects. But in our system, there is just nothing to do with private data that we will collect. But that's a part of the answer. Surely there is many other questions, but mainly this is the way. And we are working for French government, and the GDPR is very strong. We are the elite company for GDPR. We have been the tested company for how clean we were with the data. So we are working very seriously to continuously improve, to check where are the bias that can come also for anonymization, because there is many questions behind that, but that's a serious question. So they tell me that I am over, but I am still here for the 2 or 3 days. So if you want to have other questions, I will be pleased to share, answer, or discussion with you. Thanks for your attention.